Hello, my name is Stacy. Welcome to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast, where we focus mainly on herbalism, but we also talk about all things holistic health. So grab a cup of herbal tea and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to this bonus podcast episode where we are going to be talking about wellness terminology that you should or shouldn't be using. So before we go any further, I do want to give a disclaimer that I'm not a medical professional. This is all for educational purposes only. And we're going to be talking more about that disclaimer in a little bit here. But it's really interesting because yesterday I did a TikTok live, and before my TikTok live, I was like, maybe I should talk about, terminology and words that we should and shouldn't be using when we're making content. And then what's really funny is I kind of forgot about that. And then I went on my live. And the very first question that I got was from a girl. She was saying, "Hey, I really want to start making content. Um, but I'm really nervous because I don't want any restrictions or violations on my content. And so I want to listen to how you speak." And I was like, oh, this is so interesting because I was thinking about talking about this anyway. So I did talk about it yesterday in in my TikTok live, but I was also thinking about why not make a podcast episode on this? And I think that this episode will be good for everybody. It'll be good for people who want to, start creating content. Um, for, you know, any wellness. So if you want to be like a wellness content creator, or if you want to be a holistic nutritionist, or even a nutritionist, or a holistic health practitioner, or an herbalist, all of these are going to be so important. And even if you are like, I don't want to make content, I still encourage you to listen to this episode because maybe you'll learn, who you can trust and who you can't trust. And not only that, but maybe you will understand why some of us say the things that we say. And I do think that the really good people on social media sound kind of wishy-washy, and there's a reason why we sound wishy-washy, and we'll talk more about that later. But maybe even like I said, if you don't want to make content, it will still kind of help you understand why we say what we say. And so, yeah. So, not to toot my own horn, but I haven't had any of my content taken down on social media. And I see a lot of other wellness creators say that they've had their content taken out down. And I don't know this for sure, but I think one of the reasons might be because maybe they're using the wrong terminology. Maybe they're claiming things that they shouldn't be claiming. I have not on my videos. On my videos, I haven't had any violations or restrictions. I think I've had three TikTok violations, and they were all for something really dumb. So, and I'll explain what they were so you can know how dumb they were with me. So I think that they have like an AI moderators that are looking in on our TikTok lives. So these AI, they're not really knowing what we're saying or doing. And I once did a TikTok live where I was showing and talking about an herb called Yerba Santa. And I did another live where I was showing and talking about Mullein. And I got violations because the AI thought that I was showing Mary Jane, if you know what I mean. And so. And I'm like, this isn't what you think it is. And then I had another live where I was making a remedy on the live, and I was using a ninja. bullet, the little blender, and you could see where it says bullet, and I got a restriction for dangerous content. And I think it was because they could see the bullet name. And so they thought I was, I don't know, trying to sell bullets or something. I don't know. Um, and all I was doing was blending something in my little blender. But those are the only times that I've gotten, any kind of violations or anything like that. But when I was in school, so I went to school at a place called American College of Healthcare Sciences. They taught us what we can legally and not legally say. And I think that that really helped me out. That has helped me to where I really um, I know what I can I cannot say. And even though it's for legal purpose, I think that this has helped me when it comes to social media too. And my guess, and this is just a guess, but my guess is this is why my content has never gotten restrictions or have been taken down. Um, and so yeah, so let's start talking about some of the things that we can and cannot talk about. So first, I don't know if you've noticed that at the beginning of all of my um, podcast episodes, I always give the disclaimer that I am not a medical professional. And even though I went to school, so I went to school, I got a diploma in holistic health practice. I can call myself a holistic health practitioner, but I'm not a professional or a medical professional. And so I can't claim that I'm um, a medical professional. And so um, I have to tell you guys that what I am saying is for educational purposes only. And I usually say this often. I say this phrase often in my TikTok lives as well. I will say this is. I am not a medical professional. This is for educational purposes only. Um, if I'm afraid, there are some times where I'll make a video for TikTok and Instagram, and I'm just a little nervous that I may have pushed a little bit too much what I said. And so when I feel like I may have pushed it a little too much in the upper corner, I will put for educational purposes only. And I think that has saved my butt a lot for saying for educational purposes only. Um, because even if I accidentally, make a small claim that I shouldn't, I am saying, okay, oops, um, oops, I made a small claim that I shouldn't have said. So this is for educational purposes only. So that is something like um, if you're wanting to make your own content, this is a really good disclaimer to say is I am not a medical professional. This is for educational purposes only. And then sometimes to put it a little further, to go a little further with it, I will say I am not a medical professional. This is for educational purposes only. I highly recommend that you do your own research. I always am encouraging people to do their own research, not because I'm lazy. I would think that would be great if I could say, hey, this is what it is, But on the internet, there's so many conflicting thoughts. There's so many bogus information on the internet, and I'm just another voice. I am just a girl on the internet with another voice, and I get drowned out by some of this bogus information, by conflicting information. And so I always try to say, hey, you know, do your own um, do your own research, and maybe you with your own research you can see that I am correct, or maybe you'll find that I'm not correct. I'm human, so it's possible that I might make mistakes, so it's like do your own research. And also, because there's so many conflicting thoughts, I think that, and I also believe in bio individuality. um, I think, seeing some information out there is going to fit my needs, but maybe someone else will find totally, conflicting information that might fit their needs, if that makes sense. It's crazy. But this is why I'm always saying do your own research and do what you think is best for your own research. And I feel like if I say something and if another person says something and if another person and they're all the same thing, and maybe if like 10 of us are saying the same thing, then maybe people will believe us. But if there's that one person that's saying something bogus, um, that that the 10 of us can drown that one person out, but it's still important for you to decipher on, am I the truthful one or am I the bogus one? Does that kind of make sense? And when you are um, making your own content, you're going to need to know that there are a lot of bogus information out there, and that and that you're going to have to prove that you're correct. And sometimes you can't prove it. And this is when you're going to have to say, I highly recommend that you do your own research to kind of show that what I'm talking about is probably true. So I never, ever get offended by people wanting to do their own research. I worked with a client once, and I'm like, hey, maybe, you should try this herb. And she'd be like, oh, I want to try it, but I want to do my own research on it first. I'm like, go for it, do it. Um, and then every time I recommended an herb to her, she's like, but I want to do my own research. And that actually made me feel more comfortable, made me feel comfortable. Oh, she's going to go do her own research. That's awesome. So that is something that, if you want to make your own content in the wellness industry, to have your people do their own research because it's important. And we're human and we can make mistakes. All right, so let's go to the next thing. As someone in the wellness industry, we are not allowed to diagnose people. And in all honesty, I don't want that pressure. I don't want to diagnose somebody. What if we're wrong? And this is something. Sorry, I'm getting really excited about what I'm saying. Um, this is how I would phrase sometimes I think I might know what somebody has. And so I'm like, you possibly may have this, but I would go to the doctors to be sure. Um, but there are other times like, oh my gosh, I remember, oh, about a year or two ago, someone contacted me and said, hey, my boyfriend has all these like wounds on his legs. Can you tell me what it is? And I'm like, no, I cannot tell you what your boyfriend's wounds are because first, I don't know your boyfriend. First, I don't even have a picture. I have no clue. I have no idea what's causing these wounds on his legs. I'm like, do you know what's causing the wounds? And she's like, no. And I'm like, and she goes, well, can you tell me what herbs to use for it? No, I have no idea. Like, if we don't know what it is, and I'm like, possibly, calendula might help, but we need a diagnosis to be sure. And we're not allowed to diagnose. Unless you have a medical degree, you are not allowed to diagnose. And I don't want to diagnose people. Um, people need to come to us with a diagnosis already from a medical professional. So never, ever, ever diagnose anybody. Um, it's pushing it. It's pushing it, but you can stress that it's possibly something, but you want to stress that it's possibly, but you don't know because you can't diagnose. Um, and so, but this is where we want to say, hey, you know, go to a doctor, get a diagnosis, and then come to me, and then I can probably help with that. We cannot say that we are going to treat someone. We cannot treat anybody. Treating is what a medical professional does. We do not treat. I don't treat clients. I support clients. I guide clients, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. But I don't treat anybody. So yeah. All right. So unfortunately, most of the time, especially when it comes to, I feel like herbalism, nutrition, we are very, very wishy-washy, and we can't make claims. We cannot make claims. We can't say, hey, this is going to cure this, this is going to heal that. Um, so most of the time, if you hear words that I say, I use the word may a lot or can, which I usually don't like to use can, but sometimes I will say that. But I usually like to say may or possibly. May or possibly, like this herb possibly can help with this, or this herb may help with this. And um, a word that I was taught not to use, and I actually don't like this word anymore, is cure. I will never ever use the word cure unless I'm talking about it in this context that I'm talking about it right now. I will never say that an herb will cure somebody. Mm-mm. Nope. Cure, in my opinion, is a very allopathic word. I don't believe that cure can be a holistic word, in all honesty. I feel like we use the word cure, and I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, I actually don't believe in cures. Technically, I don't believe in that magic pill. I think we're all looking for, oh, we need that magic pill to solve all of our issues. And I don't think that there is. I don't think there is a magic pill, a cure. Um, I think the closest thing to a cure is to find the root causes. And I already talked about this, I think 2 episodes ago. I think it was 2 episodes ago, where we talked about root causes. And knowing the root causes is going to be the closest thing to a cure. And most of the time, in my opinion, the closest thing to a cure is going to be good nutrition. Um, Making sure that you're getting plenty of vitamins and minerals, making sure that you're getting movement, making sure that you have stress management in your life. Um, what else? What else? I'm forgetting something. Making sure that your environment is clean of toxic stuff. And then we can, have herbs to support our body. But we don't cure anything. And if we use that word cure, we can get in a lot of trouble. So examples of other risky words. So there's risky words. So we just used the I just talked about the word cure. Heal. So I do use heal, but I'm really careful about how I use heal. Um, I I will usually say I healed my severe anxiety. So I'll say it that way, and I will only use it for myself. I never use it for anybody else. Like I never say I healed a client. You'll never ever hear me say that ever. Um, I will not say, hey, nettle will cure your issues. Mm-mm. How I just use it is I say I healed my severe anxiety, and that's the only way that I can think of that I use the word heal. But we need to be really careful on how we use that, how that word, or how we use that word. So. We already talked about treat, but treat is another one we can't use. Prevent. I sometimes use prevent, but I'm working on not. And when I do say prevent, I will say possibly prevent. Possibly. I will never say, hey, Hawthorn will prevent you from having heart issues. Nope. But I might say something along the line of astragalus possibly might help to prevent you from getting a cold or a flu. But what I'm trying to do instead of using the word prevent, and I've been using this a lot more lately, is reduce. So I like to use the word reduce. So instead of saying astragalus will possibly prevent you from getting a cold or a flu, I now like to say astragalus will reduce the chances of getting a cold or fever. So to me, that sounds a whole lot better. So reduce is okay. Um, so Hawthorn will reduce the chances of getting cardiovascular diseases. But you can still, you know, with astragalus, you can still get a cold. With Hawthorn, you can still get um, heart or cardiovascular diseases. So, kind of keep that in mind. We already talked about diagnosis. Okay, so safer words. So, safe words, words that we can use, and I love using these words, and I use these words a lot. Nourish. So, nourishment. Oh, that's such a great word. And I use it all the time for herbs. Herbs help to nourish and support and strengthen. Like when I'm talking about oat straw, or skull cap, or passion flower, chamomile, lemon balm, I always say that these herbs help to nourish the nervous system. Um, if I'm saying like hawthorn helps to nourish the cardiovascular system. Um, Turmeric and turkey tail and reishi help to nourish the immune system. Nutritives. So nutritives are herbs that are packed with nutrients, and these are going to be like nettle, hawthorn, oat straw, cleavers, chickweed. These herbs help to bring nourishment to the whole body, and we're allowed to talk about nourishment. So nourishment is just so perfect. I'm a Libra. I like to talk about balance too. So balance. So we could talk about herbs or and actually, sorry, you know what? I got ahead of myself. I'm gonna go back to the nourishment for a second. So nourishment, when this isn't only herbs, like foods, I'm always looking for nourishing foods. So we could talk about nourishing foods, but we could also talk about having a nourishing life, like making sure that we get rid of the toxic stuff in our life, like toxic people, toxic media, um, toxic, mental things that are mentally toxic for us, and we can bring things in our life that is nourishing our mind. So we could talk about all of that. Okay, let's go to balance now. So balance, we could talk about herbs that are balancing. Ashwagandha is balancing. Linden, that's our herb of the month this month. I believe linden is a very balancing herb. And so we could talk about herbs that are balancing, or we can talk about, food, have a balance, nutrition. We can talk about, having a work and play balance lifestyle. So balance. My favorite word though that I use when it comes is support. I support is a fantastic word. Um, like oat straw, uh, skullcap, passion flower, lemon balm, chamomile. These herbs help to support the nervous system. Normally, what I like to say is that these herbs help to nourish, support, and strengthen the nervous system. Herbs like turmeric, turkey tail, and reishi help to nourish, support, and strengthen the immune system. But support is my favorite word. I feel like support is a much better word than cure. Support is a much better word than heal. It's just an all around good word that we're allowed to say because it's supporting. But that support doesn't mean that it's going to cure anything. It's not a claim that we're going to heal something. So support, is a fantastic word to use that is not claiming things that we're not allowed to claim. Soothe. Soothe is another really good word that I use a lot, especially for like marshmallow root. I love the marshmallow root. It helps to coat our tissue, especially on the inside, so internally. It goes and it coats our throat. It coats our respiratory system, our urinary system, and especially our gut, and it soothes the tissues on the inside. Or chamomile and lavender topically are fantastic herbs to soothe angry skin on angry skin that we have. So yeah, calming, relaxing, these are all words that we can use. So holy basil is a calming adaptogen. Um, we have relaxing nervines. So these are all fantastic words. I don't use this word very much, but you could use encourage. Um, you can say that, um, like maybe dandelion leaf will encourage the bile to move in the liver. But I actually like stimulate. I think I more use stimulate over courage, but both words are fantastic and you can use. So you can use stimulate or encourage, whichever one that you want to use. Um, I was talking about reduce. So we can use reduce. Another word that I like to use, but I always put possibly in front of this, because we're not allowed to say cure. We're not allowed to say cure, but we can use, as long as we put possibly in front of this word, we can say, this can possibly help to reverse such and such. So you can use reverse, but you can't claim that it will reverse it. But you can say it will possibly help to reverse such and such. So lemon balm may possibly help to uh, reverse anxiety. Do you see what I'm saying? But I cannot say that lemon balm will reverse anxiety. That won't fly. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right, let's use a couple examples of things that we can and cannot say. So, we cannot say this herb will cure anxiety, but we can say this herb helps to calm the nervous system, or this herb helps to support the nervous system, or this herb helps to support the nervous system, balance the nervous system, soothe the nervous system. Um, so we can, there's so many ways that we can say that. This tincture, this is something we can't say. We can't say this tincture treats insomnia. We're not allowed to say that. But we can say something as this tincture or blend supports restful sleep, or this tincture may help with insomnia, something along that line. We can't say this will heal your gut, because that's claiming something that we don't actually know. But we can say this will nourish the digestive system, or this will support the gut. Or this can support the gut, I should say. Um, it will help to soothe the gut. Um, we can't say take this for depression, but we can say this herb may help to uplift your mood. This herb may help to reduce your symptoms, if that makes sense. So, um, and like I said, it sounds like we are wishy-washy, but we have to be. We're not allowed to claim anything. And I think that that's really good because since, I believe in bio-individuality, um, it would be a bad thing to claim anything. We don't know for sure. Everybody is different, and so we shouldn't be claiming anything. Another thing that I love to say is from my research, which it is. So I do a lot of research, and even though like I've seen things to say, hey, we've done studies, and this is the outcome of our studies, or I've read other books that claim things. I will not do that, but I'll say, hey, from my research, I have found X, Y, and Z. So I will tell people that it's from research, but I'm not claiming what my research said, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then I will also say it has been said. You can do that. So you can say it has been said because you're not saying it, but it has been said by somebody else, if that makes sense. Or they say that this herb can heal anxiety, or they say that this herb can help to nourish, support, strengthen the immune system. So you're taking the claim off of yourself. And so when you take that claim, people know that it's not you, but it's possibly somebody else. But who's that somebody else? You know what I mean? So um, that is something that I will do a lot. Another thing is, you know how everybody say that they're healers? I say that I'm a healer, but I am my own healer. And I treat my clients like this too. I am not their healer. I'm not my client's healer. I guide people to become their own healer. So I give them the tools, I give them the resources, to possibly, see that word possibly, heal themselves. Um, and so I am more guiding. Now, if they take my guidance, that is up to them. If they don't take my guidance, then there's probably not going to be very much healing. If they take my guidance, then there is a very good chance that they can, at the very least, decrease their symptoms. Um, so, see, it's all about how we word things. We need to word things really carefully. Um, I like to teach people how to support their bodies naturally. I don't teach people how to cure their bodies naturally. I don't teach people how to treat their bodies naturally, but I help people to support their body naturally, if that makes sense. Another thing I like to say a lot is in my experience, I am all about relatability. I love relatability. That is that and even though I believe in bio individuality, I love um, I love hearing other people's stories, and it usually will kind of make me want to experiment, off of other people's experience. And so I hope that other people like relatable content as much as I do. And so I will say, from my own experience, um, I did this and this happened. Um, and I think it's really important. Like for me, I am my own guinea pig. I'm my own guinea pig. I don't tell anybody to, or I shouldn't say it that way. See, I was about ready to say something that wasn't right. I don't guide people to do things that I'm not willing to do myself. So pretty much everything that I recommend, that I suggest, I have already done myself. And so a lot of times I'll say, from my experience, this happened, or I tried this and this is what happened. And, I do believe in bio individuality. So, and that's something else. That's something I will always, always say is I believe in bio individuality. So if, so this herb really worked for me, but it possibly not might not work for you. This diet is working amazing for me, but I believe in bio individuality, so it might not work for you. But I think a lot of times in our guidance, we just need to teach people that there's options that they can try. There's other options, and it may or may not work for them. And we need to let people know that. And like, again, I know it sounds kind of wishy-washy, but that's what life is. That's what health is. There's no guarantee. And because I believe in bio individuality, what works best for me might not necessarily work best for you, and that comes out kind of wishy-washy, but we need to experiment. So I always tell people we need to, experiment. It's all trial and error. You could try this, but it's a possibility it might not work for you. And so we need to be upfront with that, and we can't make claims. We can't say, oh, this worked for me, so it's definitely going to work for you. Those people drive me crazy. There are people on social media that do that, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves. One of my biggest pet peeves is people in the wellness industry that say, hey, this worked best, or this worked for me, so it's definitely going to work for you. No, that's not how it works. Um, so you'll never ever hear me say, hey, this worked for me, so it's gonna work for you. I've been talking a lot about the carnivore diet because it's worked for me. And I am not talking about the carnivore diet because I think everybody should try it. But the reason that I'm talking about the carnivore diet is because it gets a really bad rap, and I don't agree with all the criticisms that it gets. And so I talk about it because I want people to know that I do believe that it's a healthy option, that it is an option, a safe option, because 2 years ago, I did not think that it was a safe option. I thought it was a very dangerous thing that people were talking about until I really started doing a ton of research on it. And then I was like, oh, this is actually really safe. And so I don't think the carnivore diet is for everybody, but I do think that it is a safe. And so that's terminology that we need to use as well. We can't claim, like I cannot claim, hey, the carnivore diet worked for me, so it's definitely going to work for you. Um, no. And there are people that do claim it, and there are some people that can get away with claiming that. And I don't know how they're getting away with it, but I don't like it. I don't like I don't it's not that I don't like that they're getting away with it. Well, I kind of do, but I more don't like that they're making that claim and that they believe that we're one size fits all. I don't believe that. Okay, another thing that I will say is in my opinion. So we all are entitled to our opinions. So, and I'll stress though that this is my opinion. And sometimes I'll say from my research, this is my opinion because there are still unknowns. There are still things that there's studies on, but there's still unknowns on health. And I think the reason that there's so many unknowns is because of us all being different, of all us being unique. And so um, I like to say, in my opinion, or from my research, this is my opinion. Another thing that you can say is that this herb was traditionally used for, so you can use that too. This herb was traditionally used for, or this diet was traditionally used for, so you can do that too. You can even say in modern use, we're now using this herb for such and such. Um, as long as it's true, as long as you did research and you found that in modern um, use that we use it for this. It's it. So you don't want to go like in modern use, hawthorn is used for immune health because it's technically not, although it could be kind of because it is rich in vitamin C. Um, But in the United States, we technically don't use hawthorn for immune health. Um, we mostly use it for cardiovascular health. So, yeah, just make sure that what you're saying is true. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, Another thing, and I mostly use this on products. On products, I will put this is not FDA approved. FDA approved, or the FDA does not approve of herbalism. Um, it doesn't regulate herbalism. So on all of my products, I have this is not FDA approved on there, and we have to have that on our products. So that's really important. Something else that I've noticed that social media gets a little, it's a fine line. Like it depends on how you talk about it. Like if someone says, I have cancer, I think that social media is okay with that. But if you say, even if you say something like this herb supports cancer, social media will get really cranky about that. Cancer is a very taboo topic to talk about in the wellness industry. A lot of times, like in my lives, if it comes up, I'll only say the word once. I'll only say cancer once because I feel like if I say it too many times, I will get a restriction. And so I will say cancer once, and it usually will allow me to. Actually, it always allows me to. But then I'll call it the big C. I'll call it the big C, and it looks like in the TikTok lives, it allows me to call it the big C. But what's really bad is COVID is also called the big C. So I'm always hoping people know what I talk about. And that's usually why I will say cancer once. And then I'll kind of, and then I'll say the big C so people know what I'm talking about. And COVID, um, even COVID is kind of like a taboo thing to kind of talk about and how you talk about it. I can say, hey, 3 years ago, I had COVID, and social media is okay with that. But I can't say this herb may help with COVID because it seems like, um, it's still, I think, I don't know if it's still, but it was. And so I'm still really skeptical about talking about COVID. Um, and so normally I'll say that once and then call it the big C. So I've noticed that people in my lives will call cancer and COVID the big C. And so we have to figure out which one is the big C. Is it cancer or COVID? And sometimes I'll try to call COVID vid. I'll be like, the vid. But then people think I'm talking about a video and they're like, what video? And I'm like, no, the vid. Um, so yeah, so it can get kind of tricky. Terminology can get tricky. Another thing that can get kind of tricky, and I don't know if this word is tricky on Facebook or Instagram, but I know it's really tricky on TikTok, and that is weed. Like you, and this is hard for an herbalist. This is really hard for an herbalist because I talk about weeds all the time, but I'm talking about the weeds that grow in people's yards, like dandelion, plantain, um, wild lettuce or prickly lettuce, burdock root, that or burdock, weeds like that, not the ones that we smoke. Um, but TikTok does not like that word. So we have to get really creative. And sometimes I just have to say, pesky plants or plants that people think are pesky, so I kind of have to just change my terminology. There's also a herbalist. Her name is Susan Weed. And I've tried to talk about her in TikTok. And people were wondering how to spell her name because her first name is spelled differently. And so I tried to spell her name out on TikTok in the comments and it wouldn't let me. Um, and so I can't even say Susan Weed. And so that's funny. So, um, but yeah, so it's really important what we can and cannot say. If you keep having your videos taken down, I would try to start using some of these terminology to see what happens. See if it helps or not. Like I said, I don't know for sure, but that is what I'm suspecting is why videos are being taken down. Also, what else? If you're new to making content, please take all of this advice. Do not use the word cure, treat, diagnose. Um, do not diagnose people. Do not claim things that you cannot claim. That's the most important thing that we should get out of this is you cannot make claims that you don't know for sure. And so it is frustrating. It's really frustrating to have to sound so wishy-washy. There is products in my shop and the description of the products drive me nuts because it sounds so funky, but I can't say it normally. I can't say what it does normal because my website provider might take them off my website if I said it how I want to say it. You know what I mean? So I have to word it all funky so my website provider doesn't take my stuff out of the shop. So All right. So I hope that this all helped. I hope that all made sense. Let me know if you guys have any questions on any of this that we talked about today. I'm about to hop off this live and I'm going to go record our bonus podcast episode for our membership. And we're going to be talking about finding your voice in the wellness world. So I'm going to be sharing about how I found my voice and other tips about how you can really start to, express yourself um, in the wellness industry. So, so let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a fantastic day. All right, guys, bye. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please make sure to follow Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a review. Do you want to hear more episodes like this? Join our Herb of the Month membership where I add a bonus part of this episode. In this membership, we also have a lot of PDF files, videos. Every 3 months that you're a member, I send you 3 herbs, and we have so many other benefits. Come nerd out with us, and thank you for listening to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast. Have a great day.